I mean, now we're live everywhere. But talked to my buddy Sean Hendricks, and he was looking at my socials, and he was like, "Does anybody ever talk to you on X?" And I was like, "No, not very much." I was like, "But I'm not there very often." He was like, "All right." And so he posted a video and tagged me in it, and he called me back later, and he was like, "Hey, that video I posted should have gotten 1,000 likes and all this stuff." And he was like, "Since I tagged you in it," he was like, "It's the worst performing video I've ever done." And it was on how we saved his life when he had COVID. He was like, "It should have done really, really well." And he was like, "And because I tagged you in it, it tanked." And he was like, "Your social is dead." And more or less the reason for that was because I posted how to fix COVID. And I talk about stuff. YouTube has told me that it's banning me about 65 times because I've talked about things like the research on vaccines. And I've talked about testosterone, and we've talked about peptides. We've talked about all sorts of stuff. So I'm still going to talk about that stuff, so I don't know how much that's going to help with starting a new account. But he told me to go ahead and completely change and start a new account. And since I have on X, it's been quite a bit different. So I'm changing everything on Instagram and everything else over to at TheDrChalmers. So join those, follow those. That's going to be where all this stuff ends up moving to. I'll quit using this one here in about a week or so. But yeah, so that's kind of where that one is at. To follow at TheDrChalmers. A little bit on calories. So there is no diet for human beings. All the people who are telling you everybody should be vegan is 100% wrong. Everybody's telling you everybody should be carnivore is also 100% wrong. And everything in between. I talked about this a lot. I've had patients who were on carnivore and their diets were written beautifully. They were doing them perfectly. Everything's great. They had low energy. We tested them with continuous glucose monitors, and their body just wasn't producing enough sugar for their blood. This is not a thing that happens to everyone, but it's a thing that happens to enough people that it's one of those things where you have to understand what's going on with the things that are put in your body. So one of the things I always recommend for people to do is to check. One of the great ways to do this is to go full carnivore for like 10 days, about 5, 6, 7 days into it. Check your CGM, see how you feel, walk through it, and then you'll kind of know how your body handles a meat and a carb-free or sugar-free diet, and then you can start adding those things back in. Calories are absurd. The idea that we have special energy that's hidden inside food, but we figured out that it's 4 for fiber, which by definition never gets in your body, 4 for sugar, which is chemically the fastest path to fat, and 4 for protein, which requires burning of fat or utilization of fat to produce the sugar, is also just as easy as going to make you fat because they're all 4, is absurd. And the idea that our body uses thermal energy, we're not steam engines. We're electrochemical machines. So electrochemical means the ions that are on these individual things. I've written diets for people who are very high glycemic, very high carbohydrate, for the guys who couldn't gain any mass at all. And I've written lots of keto and carnivore diets. It's highly dependent on the person. So don't look at the calories. The calories are not, they're completely useless. If you want to do extra math, that's fine, but you're going to break it down to macros regardless. So all these people are like, no, calories in, calories out's 100% the thing. You just have to figure out how many calories from each individual thing, protein, fats, and carbohydrates. Great. You're running a macro diet. You're just doing extra useless math. If that helps you, fantastic. Whatever, do your math. Fat doesn't make you fat most of the time. Some people it does. Most people it doesn't. Sugar makes a lot more people fat. Some people, they have to have it. So what the hard thing is that, like I said, there is no diet for people. There is a diet for a person. So if you're working with somebody who, bangs the table and tells you all day long that you have to be one way or another, that tries to put all human beings in one camp, I would be highly questioning of that method. We have to understand that when you eat a thing, your body starts to digest it in your mouth, sends signals to your brain that says what's going on. And then as you swallow it, it then gets digested by the individual enzymes, if you have enough. and then those enzymes break down the foods. And then if you don't have any parasitic infections, your body will then absorb those nutrients and utilize them through very well understood chemical pathways. How your body responds and how your body deals with the insulin spikes and the glucagon utilization and how sensitive you are to insulin or at the time, and how much fiber was in that meal, so fiber blocking the absorption of the nutrients and all that type of stuff matters tremendously. But it also matters with an individual. Now, the fun thing is that you can typically run through with an individual and figure out really quickly how their body responds to these individual things and kind of reset the diet that way. So if you haven't been having success with the diet, change it. Go do something different, but record what's going on. How's your energy level? How's your sleep? How's your mood throughout the day? And as the day goes through, do you get tired in the middle of the day? No one should get tired right after they eat. So for instance, if you eat at 1 and then you're tired at 2:30 or 3, that meal is probably off of the macro set or the chemical function that your body requires. So there's more that plays into it than that. There's all the mineral function, there's the D3, and the testosterone levels and things like that. So there's a lot that plays in, and I realize this makes it more difficult, but there isn't a diet for people. So if you're not getting where you're trying to go with whatever diet you're on, I would start to try to change those things. And if you're working with somebody who's going to talk to you about how important calories in, calories out are, and as long as your number is under you're in a calorie deficit, that you're totally fine. That works for about 30 to 40% of the population. As long as your body switches back and forth between fats and sugars really easily and really quickly. It doesn't have any hypersensitivities to insulin or to glucagon or to ghrelin or to leptin or whatever, then you'll be fine. However, the vast majority of people who are struggling with their weight don't react that way. And so what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to figure out where the macro set is, what the actual chemistry your body requires is, and then move in that direction. I realize how much more difficult this makes everything, but that's the reality of biochemistry. And we are all a little bit different. We look different. Our skin tone is different. Our builds are different. All those things. We have genetic deletions like NTFHR and COMT and MAOA. And so, APOE. And there's all sorts of different things that you can look at genetically to figure out, here's some things that are specific about you. Genetics are great. If you know somebody who's doing genetics, they understand and they know how to do them, that'd be fantastic. So running genetics is a big deal, but we have to get away from the idea that, the amount of calories that are in a food directly dictates how it's going to react to your body, because that's silly. But anyway, so if you guys are struggling with that, look into somatotyping, look into going to a strict macro function, and look at how those chemicals react in your body. For instance, fiber, by definition, never gets into your body. That's the definition of fiber. It's insoluble. It does not get absorbed in the intestinal lumen. So any system that says that sugar is 4 and fiber is 4, because they're both carbohydrates, and protein is 4, and you just add them up, remember that fiber never gets in your body. And so if they're all equal and one thing never gets in your body, how strong is this system? So, all right, you guys have a great day. If you have any questions, hit us up. Have a fantastic time.